Everybody, thanks for coming. I passed out these cards for everybody to fill out. Important thing is name, email, phone number. Reason I passed them out. Finally, I'm in the process of registering all of my mutual funds in Canada. I started my funds back, I think, in 2010, 11, the first ones, but so far no Canadians have been able to buy them, but I'm now registering my asset management company in Canada. So I will be registered, I think, within a month, maybe two at the latest. And you'll be able to buy them directly from me. You'll be able to buy them from local firms, including Echelon, formerly Euro-Pacific Canada. You can buy the funds. And also, I will be able to manage accounts directly from my asset management company in Puerto Rico for Canadians. Up until now, I've had to turn down Canadian customers, prospects, because I was not registered in Canada. So that will be different in the future because we will be registered there and we'll be able to do business. So fill out these cards.
For the best editorial on junior mining, visit cambridgehouse.com/mining. Click the link in the description below to learn more.
And just make sure you hand it back to me before I leave. If you don't, I left some up there, and that's so I can get a hold of you and let you know that we're registered and we're ready to do business. But we want to spend today's workshop talking about GoldMoney, talking about Menē. We got Roy Sebag here, who founded both of those companies. And this is a gold conference. Most of the exhibitors here are mining companies who are looking for gold, right? And obviously, if you can find gold, it can be a lucrative business. But it could be a very bad business if you don't find any, or if it's just too expensive to get out of the ground. But there's a big difference between being in the business of mining gold or exploring for gold and just using gold as money, because that is the best, or the main use for gold for the point of view of an investor. Sure, you have plenty of uses for gold in industry, in jewelry and things like that. But one of the best ways that man has figured out how to use gold is to use gold as money. And gold has been money for thousands of years, and the reason it's lasted so long is because it works so well. But governments, often try to control our lives, and one of the things they try to do is control money and change money and substitute money for what we now use as fiat currencies, just pieces of paper that governments declare as legal tender and which have value purely based on faith and confidence and tradition, but they don't have any value based on the intrinsic properties that they possess, because they don't possess any.
For the best editorial on junior mining, visit cambridgehouse.com/mining. Click the link in the description below to learn more.
They're simply pieces of paper. There's no difference between a $100 bill and a $1 bill other than the number of zeros that's written on the paper. There's a big difference between 100 ounces of gold and 1 ounce of gold. Because if you have 100 ounces of gold, you can do 100 times as much stuff as you can do with an individual ounce. But what GoldMoney is really doing, or the goal of GoldMoney, is to make it easier for modern people to use gold as money, not just as a store of value, which is an important part of money. And gold has always been a great store of value long term. Even if you're not using gold as a medium of exchange, everybody can easily use it as a store of value. But it's the ability to use it as a medium of exchange that really makes it function as money, more than just a place to store your purchasing power. And that's what the vision of GoldMoney was, is that you can have an account online that you can easily open up. You can buy gold for a very small premium over the bullion price, and have that gold stored in a way that you can access it very easily to either transact. You can transfer portions of your ownership to other parties for whatever reason, whether it's a gift or you've involved in a transaction and you're agreeing that the compensation is going to be in gold rather than some fiat currency. And the application on a cell phone makes it easy for one person to transfer ownership of fractional amounts of an ounce of gold. You don't have to buy an entire, you don't have to give somebody a whole ounce of gold. You can give them a gram of gold, right? And to make it easy for you to utilize your gold for everyday commerce, right? To be able to access your gold by using a debit card as easily as somebody can access a bank deposit using a debit card, except without having to have the risk of a bank deposit, without having to lend your money to a basically bankrupt financial institution that pays you no interest, right? And so the promise of GoldMoney is very bright. But I think the biggest problem that GoldMoney has and has had recently is that governments are not too happy about what GoldMoney is trying to achieve. Because to the extent that GoldMoney can succeed in its mission of making it easier for people to use gold as a medium of exchange, then that's what everybody's going to do. You know, just like Uber makes it easier for people to get a cab, people choose doing that. And governments like here, the government in Vancouver bans it. Oh, you can't do that. We don't want to have freedom of choice or we want to get in the way of that. And the way, just like in America, the post office, they have a monopoly. They don't like people using Federal Express, but they limit competition. Well, I think GoldMoney's been having a lot of problem with regulators, and that has slowed down the process. There have been people that have had a hard time at times opening up accounts, as if it's GoldMoney's fault. If it was up to GoldMoney, you can open up your account in 10 minutes. It's not GoldMoney that is slowing down the process. It's the government that is overcomplicating the process with regulation, because they want to make it as difficult as possible to offer a better alternative to the fiat currencies that they've been forcing everybody to use. But ultimately, I do believe that GoldMoney will be able to overcome these obstacles, and governments can stand in the way of progress, but they can't impede it. And ultimately, when given the choice between worthless fiat currency and real money, most people will choose real money. But in the meantime, you can still open up accounts at GoldMoney. I would encourage everybody to go to goldmoney.com and open up an account and fund it and continue to accumulate gold. And I think the more people that open up accounts and encourage your friends to do the same thing, vote with your feet, right? You're telling governments that you don't like the monetary system that they have, and you don't like the big government that it supports, and that you want to vote with your feet by owning gold as an alternative. Well, then you can do that. And ultimately, as we have a critical mass of people who are voting with their feet and are saving and preserving their purchasing power in gold, it will make it easier and easier eventually for the platform to grow and blossom and become a global payment network that makes it easier for people all around the world to transact with one another in the universal money in gold, and do it in an efficient and convenient way, and be able to store their savings without having to worry about the government stealing it through inflation. But anyway, let me introduce Roy, who can talk a little bit more about GoldMoney, because he's the founder, and we can also talk a little bit about Menē, which he's talked about before, where you can use your gold as jewelry. But of course, by using it as jewelry, you haven't given up the monetary properties, because even if you have jewelry, that jewelry can be melted down and you can get the gold right back into the form that it started with, which is one of the beauties of gold, is no matter how you fashion it, you never destroy any of its properties that make it so valuable in the first place.
Thank you, Peter, for that introduction. Why don't I start by just talking a little bit about, my views on gold and why I think it's so important for everyone to own gold. There's really different ways to approach it. Peter's approach is heavily focused on the gold being a vote, that expresses your disdain for government, and I think that's a very, very admirable one. But I also think that what's missing from the knowledge is just that the way Peter was saying, 1 gram of gold versus 100 grams of gold is different. That's so fundamentally different from how we treat money today, where $1 is no different from 100, because the 100 grams of gold requires 100 times more energy and labor and time. Notice I'm not using money, I'm using natural measurement, weight, energy, time, things that have been dictating how we cooperate with each other for thousands of years. So gold is essentially a measuring stick which simultaneously stores the value of every person that decides to use that measuring stick. And unfortunately, the reason I founded GoldMoney was there was no simple way to do that, to live your life in gold, to measure your labor every month in gold, to make payments in gold, to save in gold, to spend in gold. I live my life in gold. So I basically don't keep any cash at a bank account. I basically hold precious metals, gold, silver, platinum, palladium. And every time I need to spend money, I use my card. This is my plastic card. I also have one that's made out of gold. That's when I need to impress someone. I use this one. And everywhere I go, when I swipe this card, what I'm effectively doing is debiting a balance, a weight balance at a vault. We offer you 15 vaults around the world. I like to keep my gold in London and in Switzerland. I don't keep it in the US, but some people do. Some people keep it in Toronto. We offer you 15 vaults, and you can always show up at the vault, pick up the metal. Now, if someone that I know, for example, my fiance needs some money, I don't send her a bank transfer. I transfer the money to her through GoldMoney. So I go on the app and I send her a few grams of gold. Now, we allow you to still think in currency. If you're still manipulated by the currency measure, which most people are, you can think in dollars. But what's effectively powering this system are bars of metal sitting in a non-bank vault that are fully insured. And that is a system that I set out to create with GoldMoney. As Peter mentioned, it's been an extraordinarily successful system. The combination of our own organic growth coupled with a few acquisitions and mergers. Peter and I have a business together called Schiff Gold, which sells gold coins. I purchased the GoldMoney business from James Turk and Eric Sprott 4 years ago. The combination of all those activities resulted in a company that's publicly traded called GoldMoney Inc. It's listed on the TSX under the symbol XAU. And that company is, for lack of a better term, a gold bank with 1.5 million customers and $2 billion of precious metals in vaults, one of the largest physical hoards of precious metals in the world. We have the equivalent of 35 tons of gold. It's mixed between gold and silver and platinum palladium. We have more metal in our custody than many governments around the world. And we have a very simple business model. We charge a very low fee, about 0.4% a year, which we earn. And because we charge such a small fee, we don't have physical branches like a bank. We don't have the same white glove service. We really want to incentivize you to be self-directed, like an E-Trade account where you're logging in and doing things online. About 3 years ago, in the midst of building that business, I'd begun to notice that if my mission was to truly educate people on the importance of gold, I was having a struggle with the GoldMoney business because at a certain level, the rooms would generally look like this room in terms of demographics. Overwhelmingly male, generally financially literate, and on the baby boomer plus side, with respect. And if I really wanted to get everyone to understand gold, I had to achieve a much more well-rounded network effect. I had to basically tap into the same people that are opening Instagram accounts and Facebook accounts. And what I discovered was that the jewelry industry was exactly that market, where people aren't necessarily buying gold for the sake of gold. They're buying jewelry for the sake of gifting someone with an item for a birthday to mark a special moment in time as a memory. I was shocked to find out that the jewelry industry is a $300 billion annual industry, which by comparison, the gold investment industry that we all hear about is $60 billion a year. And no one in the gold jewelry industry was trying to educate the consumer as to how they should buy jewelry, how they should price jewelry, and even some basic things in terms of what is an alloy, the importance of diamonds, whether they have any value. And I thought it would be a really interesting opportunity to create a direct consumer jewelry brand. We called it Menē. Menē is an Aramaic word which stood for money. There was the Menē, which defined a weight of gold, and there was the shekel, which defined a weight of silver. And you can go back thousands of years from biblical times. These were the standard units of money. So we called this jewelry company Menē. We trademarked the term investment jewelry. And what we do is we craft 24 karat gold or platinum jewelry, just like this. We do not use any gems or diamonds or anything that would complicate what the item is worth. So when you buy something from us, you know exactly what it's worth. You just weigh it. The weight times the price of the metal is the value of the item. And then what we do is we disclose to you exactly how much we make on each piece. And we make sure that we never make over 20%. By doing so, 80% of your original purchase is maintained as an investment in precious metals. Now, it turns out that's exactly the inverse of the ratio that Tiffany and Cartier and Pandora and all the big jewelry brands use. They make 80% at the time of purchase, with your subsequent value being at most 20%. With Pandora, it's even worse. The melt value of a Pandora charm is about 2% of the purchase price. So what we're doing with Menē is we're disrupting the global jewelry industry by reorienting the jewelry purchase from being a discretionary item to being part of your overall savings portfolio. It's not the cheapest way to buy gold, but it's the best way to buy jewelry. And the opportunity is immense. This started out as an exploratory venture within GoldMoney. At first, my board thought I was crazy. How are you going to build a jewelry company? I partnered with Diana Picasso. She was a friend of mine. She's the granddaughter of the great artist Pablo Picasso. We set up a design office in Paris, and the team of designers have designed 3,000 different designs last year. We launched January of last year. We sold $10 million of jewelry in our first year, entirely online with very limited marketing. It's spreading via word of mouth. The business has gotten so big and so successful that we decided to spin it out, which is essentially a process of giving birth from one public company to another, kind of like how PayPal was spun out of eBay. And we spun out Menē from GoldMoney, and it now trades on the Toronto Stock Exchange Venture as its own standalone business under the symbol MENE, and in the US, MENEF. And one of the reasons I'm here is I'm very excited about the future of Menē. I think the business has the potential to be far, far bigger than the GoldMoney business. The GoldMoney business is something that I took from essentially an idea on a napkin in 2013 to being a business with $2 billion of precious metals and $500 million in annual revenue. I think I can do the same thing with Menē. And I implore you to take a look at the website, purchase some jewelry. We have items as little as $150, and perhaps also take a look at the stock because we genuinely feel it's going to provide a very good long-term investment. Thank you.
Just to give you my little experience too with Menē, I'm wearing some cufflinks that are made out of 24 karat gold jewelry. I mean, I'm going to wear cufflinks anyway, so I might as well wear these. They look nice. But I mean, if things got bad enough, I mean, this is money, right? I mean, and I'll get enough use out of these cufflinks to cover the premium that was paid. Because if I was going to buy cufflinks, I mean, I have to pay money for them anyway. And I know my wife wears quite a bit of Menē jewelry, and whenever she wears it, anybody who sees it wants it. You know, I mean, especially once she takes it off, it's like a conversation piece because it's very unique. It's very different than most jewelry. And of course, once one woman sees that one woman has it, then she wants it too. And the thing about it is, you know, when my wife wants to buy jewelry, normally I don't like it because I mean, it's expensive stuff, and then once the money is spent, it's gone. I mean, what's the used value if you have to sell, a bracelet used that you bought, at a department store or something like that? I mean, you can't get much back. You don't salvage much. But at least to the extent that she's buying Menē jewelry instead of something else, I'm not actually wasting as much money. It's not bad, right? Because whatever she spends, most of it is retained. And since I'm bullish on gold anyway, chances are that if we ever need to sell the jewelry, we'll get more dollars when we sell than whatever we got to pay. And I think there's a lot of people, too, that don't save anything. You got a lot of people that just spend all their money on clothing and stuff like that. And to the extent that we can get them to spend their jewelry money on Menē, then they're going to be saving despite their propensity to spend. They'll actually be doing the right thing. They'll actually be building up some type of nest egg that's going to have value. And to the extent that they were going to save in fiat currency, I mean, that's going to lose. Even if you spend a 20% markup to buy the jewelry, over time, if inflation is 2 or 3% a year, you're going to lose all that money anyway if you just put the money in the bank. I mean, and then, and who knows how much higher inflation is going to go. Interest rates are never going to keep up with it. So this is how low we've sunk, that it's actually a better form of savings. These cufflinks are better than putting money in a bank account, because over time, those bank deposits are going to lose a lot more value than the premium that I paid to get the cufflinks, and I got the cufflinks. Anyway, I also wanted to mention one thing, too, on these cards. Gold is money, but gold stocks represent an opportunity, because I think gold stocks are not valued based on where I think the price of gold is going to be. And one of the reasons that I wanted to register my funds in Canada is because we have a gold fund, which is managed by Adrian Day, and he's around here too. I think he has, I don't know if his workshop is right now or when it's scheduled, but he's here. I hired Adrian to manage my fund a little over 5 years ago. He's done an incredible job. We've got the #1 gold fund according to Bloomberg and according to Morningstar. We've got 5-star rating, #1 in the 5 years that it's existed. And it's not that we've made that much money for our shareholders. We've just lost less than everybody else. But that's because we had been in a bear market. But I think we're going to be in a bull market. And the beauty is that now, for the first time, Canadians will be able to buy the Euro-Pacific Gold Fund. And so that's, might be one of the more interesting things, because when you're investing in gold stocks, I mean, look, there's a lot of booths here, a lot of gold companies, I mean, who the hell knows? I mean, you need an expert. I mean, I don't even know enough about gold companies to do it myself. That's why I hired Adrian to do it for me. I manage portfolios of other types of companies, but mining companies are very specialized, and I think they require a degree of knowledge that I don't possess as far as knowing which ones to buy and which ones to avoid. So I hired somebody that spent his whole life doing just that. And so to the extent that you're going to get involved, rather than doing it yourself, hire a professional and let him do it for you. And I've been very, very pleased with the way Adrian has managed that portfolio for me and for my clients. And so I think, everybody in this room will be able to buy it probably within a month or two once the registration process here with the Canadian government is finally complete. And so if you fill out those cards, I'll make sure you know as soon as it's available. Thank you.